Hey guys, what's up? We're here. This NewOrleans.Football, the Sunday version, Sunday stream. So all technical difficulties hopefully are resolved. And yeah, man, we're good to go. We're here to just talk about this game. The Saints play the Bucs today. It's a big game, obviously. You win, you play next week, you lose, training camp. So we're here to break it down. We got the man behind NewOrleans.Football himself here, Nick. Nick, what's up, man? Let's talk about this game.
Man, it's a crazy game. The craziest thing, I just think the main thing before we say anything, like, obviously the biggest thing today is winning the game, getting the next week, all that stuff. But like, there is an element of possible finality here. And look, Drew hasn't said anything. He could come back next year. But I do think it's important to keep that perspective in this game. And just, at some point, during a drive, just set aside the anxiety and just realize that this could be the last time that a guy who, played a major part in, and I don't even think this is overstating things, in rebuilding the city to some degree, rebuilding its spirit at least, is going to be on the field in his cathedral, quite possibly for the last time, and that needs to be thought about.
Yeah, I was thinking about that yesterday, and I'll be honest. Last year when they played the Vikings, and there was all this speculation about, hey, Drew was close to retiring. He was actually leaning. He changed his mind and blah, 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 blah. And I think that was a Glazer report. But for some reason last year, I didn't really consider it like I did this year. This year, it legit feels like this may be Drew Brees' last game, right? And so, yeah, there is that feeling of like finality there. It's like, okay, well, how's he going to go out and what's going on through his mind? And it's the end of an era, man. I mean, I remember 2006 like it was yesterday, and man, it doesn't seem like it was 14 years ago, or but yeah, it's a big deal, right? It's a big deal. I've tried not to harp on it too much, but yeah, I mean, this guy had a huge part in basically setting the culture for the franchise, creating a winning environment, helping the city, making this team relevant again. I mean, the Saints over the last 3-4 years, I mean, it speaks for itself. So yeah, I'm glad we are acknowledging that, because this is a moment in time, right? And you don't get to do these things over. So everything is online this weekend, man. Well, not this week, today.
Yeah, so, look, I think the reason it feels a little bit different is because, look, he has a deal with NBC. It's been acknowledged that it could be his last game, and
right.
Last game in the Superdome. I mean, the team kind of talks about it in they're acknowledging the possibility of finality. Now, he could get through this and decide after the season, one more run. This was weird season. I want to go out the right way, whatever. But he might not too at the same time. So it's just important to, I just think it's important to recognize, for me, it's crazy too. Like, these are the two guys that, like, I don't want to say learned watching football from, but like, I didn't know anything about football until I started covering the game. Like, I knew about football, but like, you learn about football when you're like around the teams. These two guys out here today, like, I spent the last 11 years, covering them, learning the game, like, by watching them. And like, one of them might be gone.
Yeah, man.
It's a crazy thing to take in. And, it's weird. Like, you got the NFC, it's kind of legacy NFL, and on the other side, it's the new upcomers, Baker,
exactly.
Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar. Over here, it's Brady, Breeze, Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, so it's like, the old guard versus the uprising. But like, man, this is. I made a podcast that I deleted last night, so if anybody like listened to it before I deleted it, they already heard this rant. But like, man, it was such a bad look for Roger to be in Buffalo, and like, maybe he ends up in New Orleans today to watch this game.
Mm-hmm.
But it's weird to me that like, he's in Buffalo, and I want to acknowledge like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, like, they're going to be huge parts of the league moving forward. I think Buffalo is going to be a staple team for a while. Baltimore definitely is going to be. You have the two of like the 10 greatest players.
Yeah. Okay. 10. Yeah. Go ahead.
Top 10. Just quarterbacks. But 10 of the greatest players of all time playing. One of them's possibly playing in the last game in his cathedral, and you're in Buffalo. Like, come on, man. Like, nobody wants him in New Orleans. Like, nobody wants him, but he should be here. Like, the city don't care if he's out eating at Donald Link's restaurant or, taking on bourbon, whatever he's doing. Like, nobody really wants him here, but he should be here anyhow. Like, he should be here to watch this game, and maybe he will end up here. But if he's like in Kansas City today, and like, it's whatever, this is the AFC trip, and then next week he's watching the NFC game. Nah, man, like this is like a hallmark game for the league. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we knew this was going to be the game 2 weeks ago when the Bucs played the Bears and the Saints. I mean, I'm sorry, the Bucs played the Washington football team and the Saints played the Bears. So we knew this was coming, and yeah, I'm with you, man. Like, I don't see how anyone, and look, even if this is not the most interesting X and O's game to you, and if it's not out, I'm thinking, I don't know. I mean, whatever, right? Everyone has
should be.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, I don't know why it wouldn't be. I mean, I could see the interest in the game from last night also. So I do acknowledge that. And the Rams, I think they were a limited team. But yeah, even if that's not the case, where it's the most interesting X and O's game to you, like just based on like historical precedent that's about to be set alone, like you don't really this. I mean, even if Drew was planning on playing another 5 years, okay, these guys are meeting in the playoffs for the first time, right? Because you had Peyton and Brady had their run-ins, and we know how that went. This is the first time Drew and Brady's playing in the playoffs. Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a very big deal, and I can't imagine, like, if I was covering the NFL and I got to choose a game to go to, that this would not be the one. And it has nothing to do with the fact that I'll cover the Saints or anything like that. Just like I said, when you just look at the historical, just all the history that's going to be made today, period, right? I mean, just these guys being on the field together, I don't know, man. It's exciting for me just as a football fan, just without any other asterisks beside it, right? And it's a little anxiety inducing too, because it's like, wow, finally get to see this, right? It sucks that it's at the end, but it's finally happening.
Someone in the chat said he's going to be in Kansas City today. Like the other thing I was thinking, like at first was like, well, maybe he drove to Buffalo from New York, and that you're like avoiding planes or whatever. But like the dude's not flying commercial, regardless. Like Roger's got some private jets. So
no. Dr. Fauci said that planes are uniquely circulated. He could have flown.
Yeah, someone asked like what happened to the background on my side. We had a plumbing emergency, and there's people like I had to go to a different room to set up. So we got loud noises all through the house here.
Shireen jumped on the wall and pulled everything down. You don't have a chance to put it back up before the game.
All right, so the game, the injuries. You want to start?
Yeah, let's get into the injuries. So Latavius Murray and Taysom Hill from the Saints side. Those are the two big names who their availability is in question at the moment. And I haven't checked my phone in the last few minutes. I'm not sure if their report came out or not. But right now, those are the two guys who are slated to maybe miss this game. What's your thoughts on that? And what will be the impact if the Saints don't have those guys available today?
So the first thing is I thought, at the end of the week, it seemed less likely that Taysom would play. Murray was kind of up in the air. It might have changed over the last couple hours or whatever to make him a little bit more doubtful. The thing is, I do think losing Taysom's significant. It's something that affects you in a lot of, different facets of the game. But the difference is that I think if you lose Taysom on Friday, it's a devastating blow. Like if he goes to practice, gets hurt on Friday, and then he can't play, like I think you're in big trouble. If you see it coming throughout the week, I don't think it's as big of a deal. They're still spending time preparing for those personnel packages regardless. So you get that advantage there. And I just think there's different ways to go about it. You come up with a different short yardage plan. Your personnel packages aren't that messed up. You know he's not coming. So if you see he's not coming, you can prepare for it.
Right.
It has some effects, I think in the red zone. But now, I guess Alvin gets some runs in the red zone, and I think he's very capable of carrying the ball and scoring.
Absolutely. More Alvin Kamara, you can argue that's never a bad thing, right? That's one way to look at it.
There's not an 8% chance that, there could be a fumble. So that's probably not the worst thing in the world either. So
funny.
I'm just saying. I mean,
look, my rants. You don't want that. My rants about it. So yeah.
I think he gives you a lot. He's a powerful runner. He's going to offset people, but I mean, there is a little bit of risk there. So I mean, it's something that's calculated, but I don't think it's the hugest ordeal in the world because you did have time to prepare for it. I think losing them both potentially at the same time is where it hurts a little bit more because you kind of lose both your battering rams. But look, Michael Burton's there. I think Dwayne Washington's capable of running the ball. The one thing that's surprising to me is that they didn't bring somebody up as a running back off the practice squad, so that you got 3. That was a little bit surprising to me. So if like Murray's out, I'm surprised they didn't get that third guy up.
Maybe Ty Montgomery, they feel like if he's active today, then maybe they'll have him as a third guy, or if push comes to shove, I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I just would have thought there would have been another powerful, like, but yeah, I mean, I guess maybe they just don't think that, that guy's ready or whatever, but that's fine. I mean, look, I think they can get through it. I just think you got to lean on Alvin a little bit more. And I don't think more Alvin's ever a bad thing. I think more Alvin's usually a good thing. Yeah. If Alvin's got to carry the ball 33 times today, you don't want that in week 12, but in, week 19, let him run 33 times if he's got to. Like, this is it. So,
every game is a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Every game is your Super Bowl. There's no saving the player. He needs to be, let's try to make sure he's healthy for down the stretch. No, this is the stretch. The stretch is now. And, I do think there is a short yardage. Short yardage is going to take a hit. Like maybe in short yardage, they just run Alvin out of Wildcat, right? If you say, hey, you know what, we're going to run it. And we feel good about the play calls that we have for these particular downs and distances. I can see that being the case. Taysom does give you the pass element, but and a lot of times the short yardage teams do play the run. You do get the numbers advantage with him. So I think there's a little bit missing there, but I take your point that knowing early in the week is totally different from knowing later in the week. And, maybe it's Michael Burton season. I don't know, but like I said, in Latavius Murray, that signing versus, maybe re-signing said player, and I don't know what happened with that. It was some contract stuff and negotiation, but it's looking like they got the right guy, potentially, right? And so he's a good player for the Saints. Like he's not like just some number 2, which he is a number 2 because Alvin's there. But yeah, I think those losses matter. I think they're significant. I don't think they're game breaking. I think the Saints can still win. But yeah, those guys, they're good players, and they have an effect week in, week out. And I do think it's gonna, it may play out at some point in the game. That they're missing.
How big of a factor, like with how good the Bucs are, it's stopping the run too. Like, are you even going into this game with like a run heavy plan? That's the other thing too. Like it is an effect, but I think you go into this game and you run the ball and you know that you're going to get 2 yards of carry and you're just running so that you can, still have play action open, get some different looks, set some different things up. But I don't think you're going into this game being like, we need to run for 120 yards to be able to beat the Bucs. It's just you're kind of running to run because you need to run. And I mean, the way Sean plays the game, like I don't think that you need to quote unquote establish the run, but you need to show the run and you need to show that you're willing. And he will do that, but I don't think that, this was going to be a Latavius Murray game, regardless whether he's out there or not. It's just, he's going to run the ball a few times, and it's a red zone deal, short yardage. But I don't think that's the game changing moment where you're like, Murray's not playing. It's going to do him.
Our game plan has to be. Yeah, I'm with that. I think the Bucs are a team that, they take the run seriously. They devote guys to the box and plan to run. The Saints, like I said, the Saints will play the run with a 6-man box. The Bucs they got 8 guys down there, right? They just don't believe in giving it up. But their corners are going to, So I do think. Listen, I think you attack the Bucs defense by passing the ball, no question. But on the flip side, I don't think you want Drew Brees throwing the ball 45, 50 times neither, right? So I do think that Sean is such a good offensive coach that. And I think he's evolved so much in like how he sees the game, because I think he's always been a good play caller, but I think he's been a very he's grown better as like how he manages every game, specifically, and each game is his own game. And so, I think he does want to be more balanced regardless of who he's playing, but you can also primarily want to attack a team a certain way, i.e. the pass. So I think that's going to be the case. I mean, look, Alvin Kamara is a better running back, like runner not a passing. I'm a better runner than Latavius Murray. So it's not like, they lost their bell cow and only the third down guy's active. Kamara's better at both things, right? I think with Murray, he's a good guy. He's good in pass pro. He's good on check downs. I think he's an asset, right? It's good to have him. So I do think him being out matters, but you got Alvin Kamara. You got, arguably the best running back in the NFL, right? So it can only be so big of a loss where, you still feel like they can be effective. So, I think I'm not sure which one I think like kind of hurts more. I know Taysom gives you some formation things, right? Which that's always something that kind of plays into game plan. And I'm pretty sure the Bucs game plan for Taysom on some level. So, I'm pretty sure that's a factor. But, I just think that package not being available, I do think there are big plays to be had at times out of it. And so I think, like I said, I think at some point maybe in the game I could see, it kind of maybe showing up or something. Maybe not being a huge issue, but hey, maybe you don't get that 3rd and 2 that you would normally get with Taysom.
Someone in there mentioned maybe they like Deontay in the backfield. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if he got a couple carries out of there. Actually, they showed Pistol a few times in the last game, and they got him out open on some screens out of it. And I think you're going to probably at some point see some redirection type run, a sweep out of it, something like they're setting something up for it. And that's just kind of the way Sean calls plays. And they showed that earlier in the season.
Yeah.
And then he got hurt. It disappeared. It comes back again. Like that's how he does things. And Sean will tell a story through a formation starting in week 2, and it'll carry out through the whole year. And you reach the climax all the way at the end of the season, and he just sets you up, and then he goes off it. And that's how they do it. And yeah, so that's not a crazy idea. And now's the time. Like now's the time, all the protocol, it's time to break the glass and everything that you've been setting up. It's time to show it. So that it would not be something that surprises me at all today.
And they broke it out last game. I mean, last game, he was a significant part of the game plan. And I think that, and look, I mean, if you've spoken about this before, with the Saints, the pass can be an extension of the run with how the Saints play offense in a lot of ways, right? The Saints are not chunking the ball downfield. So, maybe a 3-yard out, 4 or 5 yard out on a rollout or something like that, or a quick dig route or something. That's, that's kind of equivalent to running the ball in a lot of ways because it's a high percentage pass and you get the ball out of the hands quickly. You don't deal with pressure and, you keep the clock moving and you're moving the ball forward. So, they've done that in the past and that's in some ways that's how they play offense. So I think they'll be fine. Right. I think Deontay coming out the backfield will be interesting. You could, like you said, you can see him in a jet, you can see him in an orbit, maybe a screen or something along those lines. So he's one of the guys that I'm like most interested in because I feel like if he didn't get hurt, like we would maybe be having a different conversation about him. Maybe we'd be talking about him as the number 3. And I'm not saying like down in and down out, but I'm just mean like effectiveness, right? Like I could see him being a player who would have had like maybe a few more games this year where he had those 60 or 70 yards because he was able to kind of get the ball in space and make a play after the catch, right? Because I don't think there's no clear number 3 right now. I think it's just a bunch of guys, right? And so
I think it'd still be like that though. Like if Traquan didn't get hurt, if let's say Traquan doesn't get hurt, Deontay doesn't get hurt, and they still know about Callaway, like I still think that it would be kind of a week-to-week thing with that number 3 guy. Like I think there's some games where you're going to get a certain type of coverage, a little bit of a softer coverage, maybe that Deontay can exploit. You get him in a couple press situations, he can exploit it. But I don't know if he's like your like go-to number 3. But I do agree. I think there's some weeks where he would probably break out, and he has the most big playability. But I think some weeks that it's just going to be more of a Traquan game if it's a run-heavy plan, and then you need him out there blocking, and then you can play off some of those run-heavy looks to get Traquan the ball. I think there's times where it's a little bit more physical, where Callaway could exploit it. So I think they just have a lot of good options there. As long as they're all healthy, I think it's going to be kind of like a week-to-week thing. And then even last week, it's just not, it's not a lot of Emmanuel Sanders. It's a lot of Deion. I just think that they have such a plethora of weapons that it's just always going to kind of be like that as long as, all these guys are here and you have a quarterback available that can get them involved, which we'll see how that goes next year. But it's just good to have, basically all those options. And I think today too, it'll be interesting to see how that split goes. Like, does Traquan take a ton of snaps away from Deontay?
Harris, or absolutely. I think Harris gives you some things formationally where when he's on the field, the defense has to have a plan, right? When Traquan Smith is on the field or Marquez Callaway, the defense I can see the Bucs saying, okay, if these 2 guys on the field, we're going to react a certain way, right? We know the Saints trust those guys maybe in blocking. They're not necessarily explosive. Traquan, I don't know how you want to look at him. He's been hurt so much of his career. It's kind of hard to get a grasp on him. But with Deontay, there's a specific set of plays that open up to, the offense that you don't get with those other two guys. And I do think that he can give you some of that, right? You can use him in a lot of ways. And I'm not comparing these players like directly, but like how you use AK. Like when Aaron Kamara is in motion, you're trying to, you're like, okay, what is he doing? What's going on? What are they trying to do? What are they trying to misdirect? What are they trying to do with our eyes? And I think Harris he can test the eyes of the defenders in the same way that, in ways that Harris and Traquan can't. But I think all those guys have a place in this offense too. It's kind of maybe unfair to compare them.
Yeah, I mean, I just think situationally, like if you're on 3rd and 3 and you need possibly someone to run like a hard slant and against tight coverage,
yeah,
like can Deontay, that's the reason why I think they like, there's always going to be a place for some of these other guys. And he's a very good switch up though. And I think situationally, like you said, he's going to do things to you that, make life extremely difficult. But it's going to be interesting to see like how those guys come about today, against the way they like to blitz and kind of take guys out of coverage. There's going to be space for someone like him to potentially catch the ball and, catch him run and get down the field and maybe exploit something. So I think that, he's earned a package of plays at the very least. And I could see him, having a couple home runs today, a couple long doubles, whatever. Like, I think he's going to make a couple plays. The opportunity should be there for him.
Yep. All right. So so the past couple of Bucs games that this year, right? Let's just keep it within the confines of this year because the Saints have dominated the Bucs even before this year. But it seems like DA has had the play calling edge over Leftwich and Arians, excuse me. It seems like he's calling the right plays. He's calling the right coverages. His guys are in the right position. And I think players are playing well too. Marshawn is playing Evans well. Obviously, the Saints have been able to generate pass rush, enough pass rush in the first 2 games to come out on top. So what do you think the plan is defensively against this team? You think it's kind of, hey, it worked the first 2 times. They have the same offensive lineman. They didn't automatically become all pros this year. Let's run the same thing. Let's run it back. Or you think there's going to be something different that they try to do to attack this Bucs offense?
I think you got to do some stuff differently just because it's Brady. And if you remain static, he's going to find a way to pick you apart. He's seen it once, but there were some things that happened in that game that were just simply man versus man. This team's better than that team. And they outplayed them. The thing that I think, I can't remember if we talked about this on the last podcast or not. So if I'm repeating myself, just, bear with me.
I'll meet you.
So, the thing is, I think you get to a point, where Brady's not a guy that's going to throw you to victory anymore. I don't think not often. Like he's good enough to do it. You can win because of him. But I think, you saw in New England last year with Jacoby Myers, Gunnar Olszewski, N'Keal Harry, whoever else they had in the offense that he needed help being, to execute the offense, that it wasn't at the point anymore where you can give him just anybody and he goes and does it. And the same thing's true for Breeze. Like you can't just give him, 2 undrafted guys and a first round pick that can't get separation and expect him to carry your team. Like they're older guys. They can still execute it really well. They're still accurate. They know how to pick apart a defense, but they need players around them because the God level accuracy that they once had is just regular accuracy. Like they just need good players around them. So I think if you get to the point where, Marshawn's taking out Mike Evans, CD Deuce is matching up well against Godwin, and Jack Rabbit's holding his own against AB, and it's on Brady to basically be the difference maker. I think that sets up well for your team, and I think that's why they match up well against them because Marshawn takes out their best receiver like it's no problem, and then it's on everybody else. Yeah. So if they get to the point where he has to throw them to victory, where he's got to hit Cameron Brate somewhere, and you're making him beat you with these other guys, and the foundation around them isn't there to help make things easier for him. I think that's why they have the advantage. And you do that, then you can start blitzing and all this stuff happens and it falls into place. He gets sped up. He makes mistakes. So, I think you do have to be creative to a degree, but at the same time, like, I don't think you're fooling Tom Brady. I think you got to make things look a little bit different, but it's just, a personnel versus personnel thing. And when it becomes that, I think they have the advantage.
Yeah. I think you've said this, and I think it's valid, and it's just that the Saints, they seem to match up pretty well against the Bucs, right? They seem to have their number. They seem to be able to, like I said, I said before, DA seems to have some type of play calling edge against Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich that seems to, show its face every time these guys play. And I think, Marshawn is probably in Mike Evans' head a little bit. I think there's something there. When the guy shut you down, I don't know, maybe 90% of the games you guys played together. I don't know, 80. I mean, Evans had a game against him one time and, he was effective. Yeah, I do think Evans, that could be in your head a little bit, right? And so I think the Saints match up well against these guys, and I think that's manifested itself over these games. And I think, I think you can say the same thing for the offensive line and the defensive line. The defensive line for the Saints and the offensive line for the Bucs. These guys have gotten pressure against him. So, I think that is going to play a little bit that's going to play into, the game planning a little bit. And another thing that I think, to your point about maybe not tricking Brady. All right, well, who can you trick? Well, you got an offensive lineman who hasn't played in the NFL consistently. Well, attack him, hit him with some stunts, give him some weird fronts that he hasn't seen before. Just throw the book at him, right? Throw the book at him. And even if the talent is there, which, I don't know much about the guy. He's played like 16 NFL, like 34 NFL snaps or something. I don't know exactly how many. Yeah, but even if the talent is there, the experience isn't, right? And put David Onyemata over him. Put Marcus Davenport over him. Let him get stunned over. What about Sheldon Rankins? He had a good game last week. Do something to, get those guys up front playing not as fast as they normally would, and have them thinking and have them having to play on the fly. And I think that could be a huge part of what they do, because I think as good as the secondary is, if you don't get pressure with 4, then eventually Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Cameron Brate, Rob Gronkowski, someone's going to start getting open, right? So I think up front is going to be a big part of this game also.
Someone's in here saying that we're disrespecting Brady. We aren't disrespecting Brady at all. Like, Brady's one of the greatest of all time. He's just in his 40s in advanced age. Like, I've watched Tom Brady. Like, I covered, 5 seasons of Tom Brady's career. Like, the guy he was when I first covered him in 2010, he isn't the same player in 2020. Like, that's just a fact. He's still very good. He's extremely effective. He's probably the smartest player playing football. Maybe the smartest player that's ever played football. Yeah, he's still extremely accurate. You have to respect him. He can throw down the field. It's just you can speed him up. He's not as mobile in the pocket, and it's just a fact. He left New England because the infrastructure wasn't there to help him succeed, and it just wasn't ever going to be there. And he went somewhere with better players because you need help. Like, you get to an age you need help. It's the same thing with Breeze. Yeah, like I said, like you get Breeze a garbage roster, he's not going to be able to uplift them. But you get Breeze a bunch of guys that aren't that good in 2010, he's going to uplift them. And you're going to think that these players are much better than they are. And then they leave and go play somewhere else, and you find out that it's the quarterback and not the receiver. And, these guys just aren't at that point in their career anymore where that you can just give them anything and spend all the money on defense, and they'll make whatever pieces you give them on offense look like Pro Bowl players. It's just, they just aren't at that spot anymore. And that's not disrespectful. It's just Brady and Breeze are regular good quarterbacks now.
Yeah, that's the reality of it. They're not the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFL like they were for.
They aren't Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson.
Allen and exactly. No, that's a totally fair point. And one thing I think that you have an edge that and I know this is gonna sound crazy. I'm probably not helping the disrespect Brady point, but he's a freaking statue back there at the end of the day. And as a pass rusher, that if you beat your man, then you're probably going to get the Brady, right? When you're playing, a Mitchell Trubisky or Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, or Mitchell Trubisky is a bad example. He's not a good quarterback, but these guys who may not be as smart as Brady, but they have this physical skill set, the Russell Wilsons of the world, where they can extend those plays. Those guys can be a little bit difficult to play, right? And even Tyrann Mathieu said, he was like, man, it's harder to play running quarterbacks. Like, even if the guy can pass better, like, running quarterbacks are harder to game plan for, because it's just a whole different level of preparation you have to have. And so, I do think that's why I keep going back to, like, the D-line. If the D-line doesn't play well up front, I'm not sure that it's going to be really hard to stop this offense, because Brady is throwing the ball well right now. It's just, it's not the best he's ever thrown it, but he's throwing the ball really well right now if you look at him over the last few weeks. And so, if maybe DA plays a coverage game, right? Maybe he's dropping 8 in the coverage and he feels better about that. I can, maybe that can be the case. But I think if they're going to rush forward and they can't get there, I think, eventually that can become problematic, unless, guys are just playing sticky coverage every down because Brady can find an open guy. So, man, it's an interesting game. Like, there's so many, like, different, like, small matchups going in. Like, the Bucs linebackers, they got both of those guys back. How are they going to cover them? The Bucs ran the ball a lot last week. I'm pretty sure they're not going to try that this week. It's a crazy thing, man. But at the end of the day, I think it just comes down to the duels of the greats, right? Brady versus Breeze, and who comes out on top. Like you said, I think it's their first playoff. I don't think they played when Breeze was in San Diego. I don't even remember that, to be honest with you. That would be something I'd have to look up. But
San Diego years didn't even happen.
Yeah. That's just like a black hole in football. But yeah, since Drew's been a Saint, this is the first time seeing Brady in the playoffs. And man, it's an interesting game. And man, I'm ready to watch it. And hopefully enjoy it. So
hey, if you're watching this right now and you want us to do like a pregame show for every game next season and moving forward, go to NewOrleans.Football /subscribe, sign up. The more you guys sign up, the more stuff we can do, the more resources we can put into this. So like, even if it's just for this and you don't want to read the stories that, I hope you can't get anywhere else, your support allows us to invest in other mediums. So if you like the podcast, the videos, all that stuff.
It's a big deal. It helps a lot. It helps a lot. Like more than we can even say here. And something else that helps is subscribing to YouTube. That's a big help. And that just costs you
nothing.
Less than 1 minute.
Yes.
You go to youtube.com, search Nick Underhill. I guarantee you it will come up. Just hit the subscribe button. I promise you, just hit the subscribe button. That helps a lot. And hit the like button. If you watch a video, liking it helps, man. Liking it helps. So, all right. So, man, the game is it at 5:40 Central time? I think it is, man. I should have checked before I came. But you got the guy Super Bowl. I'm Super Bowl. They playing in the Superdome. Saints is a home game. Hopefully this is not Drew Brees' last game, because we like talking about football and we like talking about it with you guys. So and Nick, and I'm pretty sure Nick wants to write a few more articles for a few more weeks on NewOrleans.Football. So all right, guys.
Either way, it's going to be the biggest offseason since 2006, and win or lose, like it's going to be nonstop until next season. So either way, like this is going to be the most interesting offseason, or the most the playoffs keep going. But yeah, I'm with you. I want to keep having games to talk about as long as possible. The football season has kind of helped shield the reality of the real world and how things are still going on out there. So once the season's over, I don't want to be. Yeah, I want to live in this for as long as we can.
And I'll say this, right, as someone who knows Nick personally, and this is like the fun part of the stream. There's some crazy like all season experimental article things that are like written up that this guy like off season is not downtime for NewOrleans.Football. I guess that's what I'm saying. So there's no off season here, right? If you're into the draft, all right, if you're in the free agency, if you're into like what's going on with the quarterback situation, the Saints are potentially going to have to pick a new quarterback at the end of this year, right? They got 2 guys that they say they like. There's a guy who may not be on his team who doesn't want to be there, who might be a little bit of a big name. I'm not saying anything about that. I'm just saying it's going to be an exciting offseason, and every single aspect of every single story from every single angle will be covered on NewOrleans.Football. And so, man, just stick around. It's going to be fun. This is like the preseason for NewOrleans.Football. Like, this is like year 1, but we just getting the kinks out, right? It's a lot more to come. So, all right. That's enough. I just wanted to let you guys know kind of what the future held. So thank you guys.
Full flavor right there, man. Great hype.
Full court press, man. That's what it is. All the funk, all the flavor, all the fever. All right, guys, that'll be it for the live stream. If you guys like this, man, we'll do it next week. If you guys, we had quite a few viewers here, so if you guys like this, man, like you said, go and support and subscribe and like the video and do all the other good stuff, and we can do more stuff like this. So thank you guys, man. Thank you guys. We'll see you guys on Twitter. We'll see you guys on the next pod, and we'll see you guys on live stream. We out.